Deborah, I don't have a good feeling about today. I mean, look, none of the people who are supposed to be our witnesses showed up. It's just been one excuse after the other, and I really thought that they would be here, especially Pastor Ron.
Listen, don't worry about that right now. The truth is, we have to have faith. When the odds are stacked against us, God is the only one that we can look to. So let's just focus on him and have faith, all right? We're going to prove today that you truly are a changed man. And so let's trust in him to help us prove that today, okay? All rise. We present the Honorable Judge Moore presiding this morning. Good morning.
You may have your seats. Thank you. This court is now in session. We are here today for the matter of Jacob Porter versus the state of New York, seeking a reduction of a sentence on the basis of good conduct and rehabilitation. I will hear the opening statements. Ms. Turner, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead. And please, we have other cases today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I stand before you today, not only as a defense attorney, but as a woman of faith. I believe that judgment is not only about punishment, but it is also about redemption. I believe that the man seated here before you today should not be looked at only through the lens of his crimes, but he should be seen through the lens of his redemption. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Honor, I share with you today that Jacob Porter is not or was not always the man you see seated here today. At age 16, Jacob Porter was caught in a life of crime and violence, seeking family and connection in gangs and the streets. It turned him into a criminal. And unfortunately, as a result, he ended up in prison. But I tell you, Your Honor, while in prison, something miraculous, something awesome occurred. Jacob found God. As a result of him finding God, he has found peace, and he has become a transformed man. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand documents and testimony which speak to the fact that Jacob is not the criminal that he was before. He has served 8 years thus far in prison. And I tell you, Your Honor, that I have before me page after page after page of testimony that speak to Jacob being an admirable prisoner, one that is living and serving his sentence with integrity and doing an awesome job. I submit to you, Your Honor, that as a result of his commitment to his faith and to God, Jacob has committed to a substance abuse rehabilitation program. He is engaged in personal counseling, and he is also a part of a rigorous faith-based program. Your Honor, I believe in second chances. Jesus, in his infinite mercy, has sought to give us a second chance, especially to those who are lost. Consider the woman who was caught in adultery. Jesus gave her a second chance. Consider the man that was on the cross with Jesus, a thief. Not only was he given a second chance, but he was given entrance into paradise. Your Honor, I stand before you today saying that my client, Jacob Porter, merits the same second chance that they received. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that the man who sits before you is not a man who's unrepentant. He knows what he did. He is totally cognizant of the fact that the events of that night, those tragic events, ladies and gentlemen, led to something horrible that took place. But he sits before you repentant. He sits before you wanting to commit to becoming an asset to his community. He sits before you, Your Honor, desiring a second chance. And so, Your Honor, on his behalf, I ask you, I plead with you today, give Jacob Porter a second chance. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Turner, for your opening statement. Ms. Grant, please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not here to discuss mere legalities. We are here to ensure that justice is served. Jacob Porter was convicted of vehicular manslaughter 8 years ago, a crime that cost an innocent child his life. The loss of that child has left a wound in the hearts of his family that will never heal. That child's name was Edward Richards, or Eddie, as he was lovingly called by his parents. Jacob Porter is not an innocent bystander or a victim. He was a willing participant in the violence that pervaded his community. Today, we will revisit the defendant's past, history of violent tendencies, and disregard for the law. We will hear from Edward Richards' mother, and she will detail the emotional and physical trauma she's experienced as a result of the defendant's negligence and actions. As this hearing unfolds, it will become evident that Jacob Porter should not be released early to the general public, as his recent behavior doesn't sufficiently demonstrate that he has been truly reformed. He is not a first-time offender, and he is at high risk of reoffending. Reducing his sentence would dishonor the memory of Edward Richards, an innocent child who will never grow up, attend school, attend prom, graduate, get married, or have children. I urge you, Your Honor, to deny this motion.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. All right. I will allow for the presentation of witnesses. Ms. Grant, please present your witness.
I call upon the mother of the victim, Edward Richards, to testify. Her pain is still raw, and her voice must be heard.
Would you please state your name for the court? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. Please be seated, Ms. Richards.
Ms. Richards, I understand this is difficult for you, but please, could you tell the court about your son, Edward, and what happened on the day he was killed?
Edward was just 10 years old. He was so kind. He loved baseball. And he was gonna grow up to be a doctor, my doctor one day. We had just finished a family dinner when he went across the corner store to grab a snack. That night, Jacob Porter was driving under the influence, crashed into my son, taking his life instantly. My Eddie never came home.
Take your time, Miss Richards. It's all right. It's all right.
No one should have to bury their child. And now you stand here 8 years later asking me to forgive this man? No, no. How can I do that? How can this man walk free? Why? Why should he? You can't bring back my son, Mr. Porter. You can't. He was only 10. What you did that night, that reckless driving, you took something away from me. Something irreplaceable. You want to be forgiven for a crime that left me with nothing but memories of a child that I will never see grow up? No. 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 Mm-mm. You might have found redemption in prison. That does not change the fact that my son is dead. No one deserves a second chance. No, no one. Not like this. Not what I've been through. No, no.
Thank you, Miss Richards. Your Honor, I urge you to listen to this mother. Her pain is real, and no amount of time in prison can undo the damage that Jacob Porter has done. He's only served 8 years of a 15-year sentence and now seeks to reduce it based on his so-called rehabilitation. But the fact remains, a child is dead, and his sentence should not be lessened.
Thank you, Ms. Richards. I know that was very hard for you. You may return to your seat. Thank you, Ms. Grant. Ms. Turner, it is time for your witness.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, none of our witnesses are here today.
Ms. Turner, are you telling me you have no one to present?
Your Honor, yes, I do. I'd like to call to the stand Jacob Porter.
All right, I'll allow it. Would you please state your name for the court?
Jacob Porter.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Jacob, to the best of your ability, can you please share with the court the events of that night and everything that has been going on with you?
Your Honor, I was lost. I didn't have a purpose. My life, it was violence, anger, revenge. I thought that it was the only way to survive, and honestly, I didn't have any good examples. I grew up in a neighborhood where survival, it meant fighting every day. Yeah, I was 16 when I first joined the gang, and honestly, it felt like a family to me. Something that I never had. Promised me protection, money, status. But then I became someone that I didn't recognize. But in prison, I found something that I thought that I would never find. I found peace. I found faith. I found God. I started reading the Bible, and I started to see things differently. I started to see myself differently. I know that I can't undo what I've done, but I've been working every day to get better. I've been working every day to make sure that when I get out, I'm a man who contributes, who helps others, who makes up for my past mistakes. And I'm not asking for forgiveness either. Although, Ms. Richards, I hope that one day you'll be able to forgive me. I'm just asking for a chance to live a better life, a life that hopefully can one day honor Edward's memory.
Thank you, Jacob. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Grant, you may examine the witness.
Mr. Porter, Jacob, if I may, you claim to have found peace in prison, but before that, you were involved in violent actions, correct?
Yes, that's
You
correct.
mentioned that you were 16 when you joined the gang. Are you acknowledging that your previous arrest had no impact on changing your behavior and personified the violent tendencies that you would help further commit the crimes you caused?
No, it's not that simple. I couldn't distinguish between right and wrong back then.
So
I had no one
prior to prison, you had no real understanding of right and wrong? You were arrested multiple times before committing vehicular manslaughter. So you're saying that prison had no effect on your behavior?
Well, no, at least not in the beginning.
Isn't it true that you were booked for drug possession and battery, where you brutally assaulted another gang member, breaking his jaw and nose? You were cuffed, and had it not been for your age at the time, you would have been thrown in prison. So technically, you've already received a second chance. Wouldn't you agree? So even after that second chance, you still didn't know right from wrong.
As I stated earlier, everything that I did, I learned from that gang. I thought that following their commands was the only way to survive. I had no say. But over these past 8 years, I found peace. All of that misplaced anger and past mistakes, I truly felt convicted and wanted to change.
Can you
for the
provide
better.
any specific examples on how you made amends for the harm you've caused?
Well, first, I started reading the Word. I knew that I had to learn about forgiveness.
Forgiveness? You think you deserve forgiveness when your actions have caused lifelong pain?
Yes! That's what I've been trying to tell you. You think that I don't know. I see his face every night before I go to bed. I never meant for any of this to happen. And if I could undo it, I would. That's why I'm just asking for a chance to put in the work, live a different life. That's it.
Why should your violent history and crimes be simply overlooked because you found faith? You say you changed, but how can we trust you? 8 years isn't enough time for this great rehabilitation. You've already shown your disregard for human life. What's to stop you from going back to your old ways?
Your Honor, she's badgering my witness.
Surely a young man who grew up around violence, as you stated, has far more deep-seated problems than we may know.
Sustained. That's enough. Counselor, this is your last warning. Now, I understand that you're passionate about this, but I don't tolerate outbursts in my courtroom. Do you understand? Now, Jacob, I want you to answer this question. What assurance do we have that you've changed?
I can't change the past, and I can't erase what I've done. But I can tell you this. I am not the same man that I once was. Honestly, I wasn't even a man back then. I was just a misguided child. I've learned more about myself in these past 8 years than I ever did before. Because I learned that forgiveness is not just something that you ask for, it's something that you give. I don't expect you to trust me, Miss Grant. And I don't expect anyone to forget what I did, because I will never forget. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I am more than my past.
I cannot condone the fact that your reckless actions had caused the death of an innocent child. There is no redemption for that, Mr. Porter. We must remember that his violent history are not mere relics of his youth, but a pattern. He was a threat before and remains a threat today. Reducing his sentence would send a dangerous message to those who think that good behavior is enough to wash away their violent history. I, for one, do not believe a few counseling sessions and church services are enough to reform someone. The people of this state demand justice, nothing further.
Mr. Porter, thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. And Ms. Turner, seeing as you have no more witnesses, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a brief break. Who is this man?
I don't understand.
Excuse me, who are you?
None of our witnesses came. I don't understand.
Sir, who are you? Stop. I said, who are you? This is a court of law. I expect an explanation.
I am here as a witness for Jacob Porter.
What? I wasn't informed of it.
Ms. Turner, this is your witness?
No, I don't know who this is. We didn't, I don't
This
I
is
don't know.
absurd, Your Honor. You allowed this man in here.
Who are you exactly, sir?
I am the witness that you've been waiting on. The I am that I am.
Order in my court. All right? Now, sir, this is a court of law. It is not a joke, okay? So, I'm gonna ask you again, and I'm expecting an answer, a clear answer. Who are you, and how do you know Jacob Porter?
I have many names. The Son of God, the Anointed One, Alpha and Omega, the Savior, Emmanuel, Wonderful Counselor, just to name a few, but perhaps you know me better by the name of Jesus.
By the name of what?
Of Jesus.
Jesus.
No way. No way.
Jesus? As in Jesus, this Bible right here. Wow, I see. Okay. I see what kind of day I'm having here today. And you know what? For some strange reason, I'm feeling exceptionally lenient. So I'll play along. You are Jacob Porter's witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Please, have a seat.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
So, Jesus. Could you just tell us once again, how do you know Jacob Porter?
Well, I've known Jacob for many years. I've always watched over him. Even on the night of the accident, I was there.
What? On the night of the accident?
I was there.
Your Honor, this man was not in the vehicle with Jacob.
Yes, I was. I was with him. Just as I was with him when he first found the gang, just as I was with him in prison. I have always been with him. I'm not here to coerce you or to force you to see things my way, nor am I here to say that Jacob is innocent, because we know that he's not. However, I am here to speak the truth. The man that you see before you today is not the same man that was sent to prison 8 years ago. He's a changed man, a new life, forgiven.
It's true.
No one in this room is without fault. No one is without sin. If I were to sit and go through each of your lives in here, I'm sure, I know for a fact that I would find something to put each of you on trial for. No one is blameless. Everyone has a past. But this isn't solely about the past. This is about what this young man has done to change his life and to secure a rich future. I do not speak to diminish the life lost or the sorrows of a grieving mother, for I know her pain.
This is ridiculous, Your Honor. The defense is making a mockery of the Richards family.
Counselor, sit down. Now, Mr. Jesus, you speak of forgiveness, and I assume you mean in the eyes of God, but a child is dead. How is that forgivable?
Forgiveness is not about excusing the wrongs of the past, but about acknowledging the potential for change. I did not come to condemn, but to save, and Jacob has chosen a path of salvation. Justice isn't always the absence of mercy. It is the presence of grace. The law is meant to guide, of course, but it is love that heals. By grace are you saved, undeserved, unmerited. That is the definition of grace. Redemption doesn't come easily. It is a path of struggle and of sacrifice. But Jacob has walked that path.
And why is Jacob more valuable than Edward? Grace? Mercy? This is ludicrous. A child is dead.
Miss Grant, sit down. All right, Mr. Jesus, I have to commend you, truly. You know, your approach is very, what's the word? Optimistic. You play the part very well. But here in the real world, in reality, in my courtroom, this court of law, I have to go based on facts. I have to make a decision on whether or not this man, Jacob Porter, is truly rehabilitated and therefore a valuable asset to society. I can't just go because, oh, everybody needs a second chance. No, it has to be evidence. There has to be facts. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Judge Moore, did you know that you always wanted to be a judge?
Why are you asking me questions? And what does that have to do with anything?
Did you know that you always wanted to become a judge, or did it happen after what happened with your friend Emily?
Emily? How do you know about Emily? I've
When you were both little girls, she confided in you, remember? She told you things at home weren't safe and that her father wasn't a good man. You wanted to be brave and tell somebody, but fear caused you to keep it to yourself. You tried to help her in different ways, but you could never bring yourself to tell an adult. You had convinced yourself that somehow, some way, you were sparing her the worst, but deep down, you knew you weren't. After all those years of abuse, she just wasn't the same. She even tried to take her life, and it's haunted you ever since. You became a judge because you never wanted anyone to suffer in silence ever again. You wanted to rain down justice on all those who caused others harm, all those who broke the law. You spent your whole life trying to make up for what happened, but you never really forgave yourself. Isn't that right?
I don't know how. I don't know who you are. Because I've never told anyone about Emily. I've never even shared that with anyone. So I don't know how do you even know that?
Deborah, several years ago, you called out to me in the midst of your sin and frustration. You said that you wanted to become a better person. You said that you knew that you weren't worthy of forgiveness or sin, but you desired to be a better person. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that. I prayed and I asked for transformation. I repented of my sins and I called out to you and I wanted to know what my calling was. I wanted to know what my ministry was. And here I am, a defense attorney.
That night, you stood up, feeling like you've been given a second chance. Mercy that you didn't deserve, but desperately needed.
You're so right. That night, I encountered God. And because of that encounter, I'm the woman you see here today.
I can't believe this is happening right now. I can't believe we're still here listening to this man.
Miss Grant,
Don't address me. It's obvious that I'm the only one in this courtroom who knows how things are supposed to work. You don't just let some random man come on off the street and take the witness stand. All of you are just letting him spew nonsense, and you're just doing what?
Alexander, your brother, died in a situation similar to this. He died and you were very, very close to him, so that's why you took this case. You're angry because the man that killed your brother had a prior offense and was released on parole with specifications that he shouldn't operate a motor vehicle. Fortunately, that man didn't follow his guidelines of his parole. So your hatred for the man that killed your brother has fueled all of your decisions up until this point. You haven't forgiven, you haven't even grieved, and it's caused you to become cold and callous, especially towards those who you feel don't deserve a second chance. But what you haven't realized is that you too have benefited from mercy. It is because of mercy and divine intervention that you're even here today. If it were up to you, that man that killed your brother would be dead, and you would be in jail. But the truth is, I have a purpose for you far greater than you could even imagine. And it will all become clear to you once you learn to forgive those who you deem unforgivable. I will use you just as I used Paul. Who would have thought that the man who so violently persecuted the church will become a great apostle and teacher of my word? That will be your story one day, Lydia. Who would have thought that the young lady who thought that there was no mercy and justice and that forgiveness wasn't applicable to everybody will become the biggest advocate of redemption and salvation? And finally, Miss Richards, I know that there's much that you would want to ask me. I know you're hurt. I feel your grief. I feel your pain. In your mind, it feels like this is all so unfair, and you wonder how you'll ever recover from something like this. It is well, for there is a comforter. And even in the midst of your deepest sorrows, there is solace in the promise of support from your Heavenly Father. It is well. Your tears are precious to me. Lean on me, and I will give you rest. It may not be now at this moment, but a time will come when you'll be able to forgive Mr. Porter. A time will come when tears will no longer stain your face. A time will come when a smile will grace your lips again. Turn to the Father, and He will give you rest. This situation will turn into a testimony that you will use to preach to others, to minister to others, and to bring others to me. No one showed up for Jacob today, not because they didn't want to be here, but so that this miracle would be fulfilled. Jacob was guilty, and his punishment was fair according to the law. But he is living proof of what only the mercy of God can do. He is living proof of what only the mercy of God can do. I died for all of you so that you would not be without counsel. I died so that when the enemy is persecuting you and there's no defense or witness, that the mercy of God would step in. Now, I will say that the mercy of God does not give excuse for unrighteous living. It does not give excuse, or it does not give leeway for unrighteous living. It is not to be abused.
I think we could all benefit from a break. Okay, we're gonna take a brief break, and we'll be right back.
when mercy walked in. Oh, mercy walked in and pleaded my case. Called to the sands, God's saving grace. The blood was presented that covered my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in. The blood was presented that covered my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in.
Where is our witness? I know you were all in here with me, right? I didn't hallucinate. Right? Okay, I'm ready to give my final ruling. After carefully considering the facts, the evidence, the testimony that's been presented, it's clear that the defendant, while having committed actions in the past, which were undoubtedly wrong and egregious, he's demonstrated a profound and sincere transformation. His journey of redemption is not one that can be ignored. His witness, wherever he may be, has proven that the journey and that this man sitting here is not the same man I saw 8 years ago. Many people go to prison, go to jail, and they continue the same cycle in prison that they experienced on the street. But Jacob didn't do that. And for me, that speaks volumes. I never imagined, believe me, that today would go this way. I couldn't have predicted it. And I doubt that you thought it would go this way. But surely something miraculous has occurred in this courtroom, right? I wasn't here by myself. I saw it. And I don't hold firm to any religion. I believe in the law. I believe in facts, right? That's why I do this job. But I cannot deny that something extraordinary has occurred today, far beyond even my own understanding. And I believe that the law has been upheld over these past 8 years. I recognize the gravity of this offense, and Ms. Richards, I offer you my deepest condolences once again. Edward was a beautiful child, and a child that deserved to live out the fullness of his days, and that fact is not lost on me. But the defendant has been sincere, and he has shown remorse. You know, the witness said something earlier, and I wrote it down. He said, justice isn't the absence of mercy, but the presence of grace. And during the break, I just took a quick minute to look, through this book here. I have one in the back. And I looked up mercy, and God's compassion and forgiveness, withholding punishment that people deserve. And I think we've all been recipients of mercy, if we're all honest. And it's for that reason, taking into account the supernatural testimony that we all heard here today, and the sincerity and the efforts of Jacob Porter, I find that this sentence will be mitigated, and I will grant leniency. In this case, I wanted, with every fiber of my being, Jacob, to give you 2 more years on this 15-year sentence. But something is telling me that you are needed in your community now. And so, I am releasing Jacob Porter on parole. With the stipulations that he must not operate a motor vehicle for the duration of his parole,
We could do that. Don't
and
drive.
you must continue to attend your rehabilitation classes, and there will be additional community service. This is my final judgment.
See, I told you to have faith. Didn't I tell you that when the odds were stacked against us, that God would work for us? I'm telling you, congratulations, Jacob.
Thank God.
I'm so sorry, Miss Richards. Should have done better.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to wear this thing. Think you wanna talk to me?
Will you be okay?
Yes, I'll be okay. You know what? I think I'm gonna go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I feel the need.
Okay, Miss Richards.
I'm so glad that my freedom wasn't based on what I've done.